So we saw a little film this weekend.
Yeah, because of our schedules, we had to see it separately.
Yeah. So you ended up seeing it with Johnny 64. I ended up seeing it with my brother-in-law. A little movie called Nosferatu. Now, I had high hopes for this movie. I waited for this movie all freaking year. I saw that trailer and I said to myself, ooh, this is going to be an amazing horror flick. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. And guess what? Went and saw it and it was freaking awesome. So, Pancakes, I have no idea how you feel about this movie. What's your quick rundown before we start getting into numbers and what we felt about all the characters?
Started out a little slow for me, but overall really good. It was a true horror movie in every sense of the word.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's said in the short, one of the darkest, disturbing movies you will ever see. There was no any light moments. There was no comedy. But for me, I thought, like, I'm not even the biggest I'm the horror movie person. I've said that before, but I felt like it hit everything out of the park. For me, the movie really took off, and you felt a change of place when William Dafoe's character came on screen. He was the scene stealer.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, so before we go too further into, so you enjoyed it, is what you're saying?
I enjoyed it, yeah.
As someone who's not into horror,
right? I enjoyed it for what it was.
Good.
I thought it was good overall. Yes.
Okay, beautiful. All right, so now these numbers. Oh my God. Okay, so number one this weekend domestically is Sonic the Hedgehog 3, is Mufasa the Lion King, and at number 3 we got Nosferatu. Now, the exact numbers are $40 million on opening weekend for Nosferatu for a horror film. I felt like that was good. It's not, blockbuster numbers, but 40 million, considering that the other two movies on here are powerhouses, and most people are going to go take their kids. They're not going to go take their kids to this movie. Please don't take your kids to this movie. Now, internationally, it only made $3 million for a total of 43 worldwide. 43 million.
I think it will make its money back because I think I saw that the budget was only $50 million.
Yeah, so I was going to bring that up too. So yeah, the budget was $50 million, and between both international and domestic, so worldwide of 43, we're almost closing in. Add in a couple of million for their advertising costs and whatnot. I feel like this movie could have legs to go all the way past the $100 million mark. And if it does that, it made its money and then some.
I think it's definitely heading in that right direction for sure. What did you think of the cast? Did you think everybody delivered for the most part?
You brought it up before, and I will agree with you 110%. But I don't feel like the movie started or was better when Willem Dafoe showed up.
Right.
I feel like it was a slight slow burn where, it's a horror movie. So you have to have some sort of build up to by the time that you see Bill Skarsgård as Nosferatu, right? I mean, to be honest, we barely even saw him when he was Nosferatu.
I didn't even recognize him.
Yeah, it was so prosthetically,
And who knew what a vampire demon villain looks even more evil with a mustache?
Yeah, that was a weird
That
choice.
threw me off.
I didn't expect that at all. When I saw the mustache, I was like, Tom Selleck, is that you? I was like, what's going on here? But realistically, though, this movie, I don't know, man. Like, I sat down and I was just like, I was mesmerized. I just sat there and looking at the screen, eating my popcorn, and I was just like, oh, this is like between the stylistic choices of, how each area was, the Victorian type era that it looked in.
I love the time period they used.
Yeah, well, you had to use that time period, but it was great. Yeah. Nicholas Hoult as a scared little husband to Lily Rose Depp's, I forgot her name, but it was, to me, I felt, I enjoyed it from the beginning to the end, and it made me feel, if it made me feel warm inside.
Yeah.
Not like there was, a pool of blood coming down me, but it felt great.
some background. This was also inspired by Bram Stoker's Dracula
Yes.
without using the Dracula name and the characters from the book because they didn't want to pay royalties.
Right.
And this movie in itself is a remake of a movie that came out a century ago. That was a black and white silent film, if I'm correct.
Yes.
So, and Robert Eggers, who's a co-writer and the director of the film, had plans on doing this movie for at least going back a decade. So this was, I feel like, definitely a passion project of his. Nicholas Hoult definitely seems to love to be doing vampire movies. You know, this is definitely a change in pace when Reinfeld, which was like a horror comedy, and he dealt with Dracula. Now he dealt with Dracula Jace in Nosferatu, or the name he was used, Count Orlok.
Orlok, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they used Count Orlok. Yeah, that was good. What do you think? What did you think of Lily Rose Depp? Because I personally, I watched her show on Max called The Idol, and
I haven't seen it.
I was not a fan of it at all. But playing a timepiece character, I felt she did great.
I think she did a good job overall, but felt like she was a bit overacting at times. And I know she was portraying a mentally disturbed woman who was possessed by a demon because when she was younger, she prayed for love.
Right.
And this creature attached itself as his quote unquote lover.
Right.
So I think she was annoying at times, but for what she did a good job overall. This is my first time seeing her in anything.
Okay, so overall, you thought it was what? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
For his character, for the amount of screen time, I thought Aaron Taylor Johnson was really good in his role as the rich person, as a friend of Lily, of the couple that carried the story.
Friedrich Harding.
Yeah. I liked the fact that they used the black plate as the background that was being caused
For the rats and everything
that were happening. I thought that was a scary detail. Like, knew that Nosferatu was around the corner.
Right.
And he was close by. So it definitely knocked it out of the park and definitely hit it on every level in the scary department for sure. It definitely had the same tone as a movie we saw last year, The Last Journey of the Demeanor.
Right.
I was like, I know it's like that ship is probably supposed to be the Demeanor, but obviously under a different name. But it definitely had a more uplifting and better ending because what'd you think of like William Dafoe in that Van Helsing character role? Like he had that sick plan, like, oh, let's go burn his.
He was fucking nuts, man.
He was.
The character he played was fucking nuts. It was insane. Like, I love when we first meet him, like his student, what is this guy's name?
The doctor.
Yeah, Dr. Wilhelm Sievers. When he showed up and he was telling him, he was like, hey, what was his name? Professor. He was like, Professor. And Willem Dafoe was like completely ignoring him. And he was like in his own little world. And then finally he said some code thing in his ear, and he looks up and he goes, oh, my boy, how are you? I was like, what is up with this guy? What is his problem?
Well, he's a bit of a scientist himself.
Yeah.
So he definitely tapped into the Green Goblin cycle. The character is good, but he's an amazing actor. So he definitely tapped into that crazy character, but he had to go to the levels of that craziness to take down the creature that they were fighting.
Right.
The fact that he lured them away so the girl could like lure him in, but in a sick way, sacrifice her life, her body, her soul for him to literally suck the life out of her.
Right, but to save the overall town.
To save everybody, is like you think, oh, he would be alert, daylight, sunrise is coming, but he was so focused on her that he was stuck in the moment, and then he saw him melting away as the sun.
That was the only CGI I did not like in the film.
Right.
Other than that, I felt everything was all right, but what they did with the CGI on that, I just wasn't a fan. But go ahead.
But the creature, like his corpse right there next to her dead body, was a disturbing sight to see.
Yeah, when it was like all burnt, he was all burnt up and like all
Yeah.
like his bones were sticking out. You know what I mean? Like he was bony out at that
And like
point.
yeah, and like any classic horror film, no one is safe. Like the children.
I was gonna bring that up. Holy shit, the children! That blew my mind. I didn't expect the children to get devoured.
Yeah, victims. Emma Corrin's character was, infected.
Yeah.
And then the rich man character, he completely lost his mind. He literally went to her gravesite to make love to a dead corpse because he didn't want to lose his wife. That's how much his mind. That's how this how dire the situation for everybody in that town in Germany.
Yeah, that was insane. I when I saw because in my head I was like, he's probably going to kill the wife, and then all of a sudden he's got the kids too, and I was just like, oh, they killed the kids. Whoa, didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I thought part of me thought, all right, she'll lure the vampire in, but maybe she will survive. Nope, she was the sacrificial lamb.
Yeah.
And I forget that actor's name, but the guy that was like his loyal servant, like that sent Nicola Holt's character to the castle, this quote unquote sell him property to Count Orlok's castle.
Right.
But
Oh, you mean his boss, right?
the real
Knock. I think his name was Knock.
yeah, but he was secretly a servant. Yeah,
He was loony. He pulled an Ozzy Osbourne. He's just sitting there petting a pigeon, and he just like,
that looked really real, or that was some realistic CGI or practical effects, whatever they put in place in that moment. But
he channeled his inner Ozzy and just said, "Hey, I'm going to take a bite out of that head of that pigeon."
I wouldn't see this movie again in theaters. Not that it was meaning that it was bad, just the fact that it was so disturbing. I mean, there was that scene where Nicholas Hoult is unconscious on the floor, and how could the best way to describe it? Count Orlok's on top of him,
right?
Like attacking him in a vicious way, or at least
we think it is.
Yeah, implying or clearly the visual as the camera cuts away from what he was seeing in his mind. Like you thought he was going loony, but he regained his wits about him
right
after he recovered. But Lily Rose Depp's
yeah,
her character, she definitely delivered an interesting performance.
But her body when she was like doing those things where like she was being possessed and whatnot.
Right.
It felt very. It reminded me so much of The Exorcist when she was just bending that way, and I was like, whoa! Like this movie. I really feel like this movie was really, really good. Hence why I put it in my top 3 of the year.
Your top movie of the year.
I put it, maybe it's recency biased. I have no idea, but I will say that I really felt like this. Like, look, I put Bill Skarsgård in one of my worst movies of the year,
right?
But I also put him in one of my best movies. Same thing that I did with Henry Cavill, when I put him in one of my worst and one of my favorite movies of the year.
Henry Cavill was in my top. It was a cameo, but he was in my top movie of the year of Deadpool Wolverine as a Wolverine variant.
But this movie, look, if you like horror movies, and I'm not talking about the bloody, gory horror movies, the
like a really good storytelling.
Right.
With it.
This is a storytelling horror movie. Does it have jump scares? Yes. Can you feel like they're coming? Sometimes, but for the most part, where I thought it was going to be a jump scare, it wasn't. And just when there wasn't supposed to be a jump scare, it was like, bam, in your face. And I was like, whoa, okay. Like, this movie had me from beginning to end, fixed to that screen, watching it. And I was just like, wow, I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, other than that, the question goes out to you guys. What do you guys think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you just not like horror movies? Or do you love horror movies and like this movie? Let us know in the comment section down below.